syllable choices are a little bit like bland. I think it really created this beautiful tapestry in the texture. Bars that come out of nowhere with 7/8. Rejoice, rejoice. I did my version because I was inspired by theirs, and I think that's kind of like how this works in life, right? As far as like what I enjoyed singing the most on this song.
Yes, Sir Hairless here. Today, we have O Come Emmanuel by Peter Hollens. This is my second reaction to Peter this Christmas season 2024. My previous one was Carol of the Bells. I loved that. I thought that one was great. And this is my second reaction to another version of this carol. They were both this year. I did not do any O Come Emmanuels last Christmas. That previous version was Tommy Prophet's. It was really interesting, a very different take on this traditional carol. As I said in my introduction of that video, so if you've seen that, I will be repeating myself here. The origins of this carol supposedly date back to over 1,000 years ago, and the music that we know and that we'll recognize about half a millennium. So it's a carol rich in history. And of all of the most well-known traditional carols, this is probably the one that I know the least, or that I'm least familiar with. I was refamiliarizing myself ahead of the Tommy Prophet reaction, which I filmed a few days ago, so I'll include a few clips from that video here now. Some interesting things in there. Unison singing with organ accompaniment. Polyphony counterpoint. Delayed melodic repetition. Oboe accompaniment. I know that Peter really enjoyed making this one, and all of his arrangements that I've seen so far have just been so gripping and ingenious, if I can use that word. Combine that with the fact that this really is quite a beautiful carol. I'm looking forward to see what he does with it here. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Before we start, just a big thank you to Peter for providing some additional insights and answering some questions I had on this arrangement. You will see some of these clips later on in this video.
O come Emmanuel, and ransom captive Come Emmanuel, and ransom captive Israel, that mourns in lonely exile here, until the Son of God appear.
Yeah, I'm just going to pause quickly and just continue on, actually. This is about 4.5 minutes and we're 1.5 minutes through. I might do another pause at some point very briefly. We'll go over the analysis afterwards. There's a real flow to this, I feel, and it just makes me want to keep on going. Some super interesting things. And it's another one of these arrangements where, you know, I'm doing this video here today. If you gave me 4 days to prepare and listen to this and then do a video on it, I'm sure I would be noticing hundreds, if not thousands, of more things to talk about. And what's most music made up of? Intrinsically, you've got your rhythmic side of things and your harmonic side of things. Peter has completely reinvented them, actually, in various ways here, which I'm sure I'll touch on later. And of the first minute and a half that we've heard, the harmonies are certainly becoming a bit more funky, is the word that I'm going to use here. I'm excited to see what's to come, so let's carry on.
O come thou day spring, come and cheer our spirits by thine advent here. Disperse the gloomy clouds last dark shadow put to flight. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O
Getting goosebumps.
O come, thou Lord of might, who to thy tribes on Sinai's high, in ancient times did give the law, in cloud and majesty and awe. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. Rejoice, 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 rejoice. Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. Shall come to thee, O
I mean, imagine liking a carol and going, I'm going to do an arrangement of it, and then just producing something like that. Imagine not only the creative mind to think of it from inception, from scratch, and then all the work and time that must go into it. I'd like to know how long this took Peter to make from start to scratch. And it would be interesting, I'm sure, to hear how the time was separated into the arrangement, the filming, the production.
I think one of the most important things to keep in mind here overall, and you do so graciously give me credit, and yes, I can arrange, but I'm not the best arranger, and I've pretty much in my career always stuck to replace all the parts in which you can in order to get the best end result. And the best arranger that I've come across that inspires me in my life, that I've done 90% of all my arrangements with, is my friend Tom Anderson. I've got to give so much love and respect and inspiration and gravity to him.
I say this when I'm really just taken aback by an arrangement, and it could be for a different reason. It could be because of a particular moment or in general or several moments, but I will just need to be listening to this for days on end because there's so much in there.
But I do want to give so much love and respect, in my opinion, the rightful people to give love to on this, which is the piano guy, is one of my favorite musicians. Like 90% of everything I did is because of their arrangement, which is so unique and beautiful. Please pay attention to what I think is probably one of the top 5 best musicians and performers of all time, especially in our age, where you get to watch the love and light exude from his body, which is Steven, the cello player. I think it's just incredible. And I was just drawn to perform this. And so I did my version because I was inspired by theirs. And I think that's kind of like how this works in life, right? Other musicians get inspired by others, and you create art because of being driven to do so.
O come Emmanuel, and ransom captive
Getting goosebumps.
O come, thou Lord of Rejoice, 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 rejoice. Amen.
The first thing that caught my attention were the rhythms, even more so because this is how we start.
O come, Emmanuel.
With a raw a cappella sound. This is the melody. This minor third. Outlining the triad immediately. Peter starts a tiny bit under the first note, sliding into it. It's this real kind of raw, natural sound. The human voice and one human voice, that's all we get. There's no overproduction, it's natural. And when we take into account the background, the setting, some unbelievable backdrops that we had throughout this.
O come, Emmanuel.
It's almost like this carol is putting us back at one with nature. I feel humans were much more at one with nature 1,000 years ago than they are today in this technologically advanced, industrialized, very urban world. And it's a very, very old carol. Also interesting, maybe just to me, because I live in a cold country and Christmas times are very cold, and it's very stereotypical to liken Christmas with, you know, snow and winter, that kind of thing. A lot of the scenery in this is very green. I wonder where this was all filmed, if it was in one location or in several, but some really nice backdrops for sure.
The grotto in Portland is one of the most spiritual.
Good morning. For those
Huge shout out to Peter for managing to and taking the time to send me these videos from an airport.
So as I was trying to say, I shot this at the grotto in Portland. It's just like this magical spiritual place, and I feel like we captured a lot of its essence. And so yeah, we shot it there, and I thought it was amazing, and I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Right, I think I digressed quite a fair bit there. I believe I was talking about the rhythms right from the off. So we get the solo a cappella line, and then suddenly it's this explosion of sounds, of rhythmic crossings. Rhythmic crossings, yeah? Let's go with that. One line in the middle. Really stuck out to me there. It sounds doubled up. I guess that is the main melodic line actually at this point, even though it is an accompaniment line. I think of it like that anyway, rather than the melody. But what else do we get immediately? A strong bass acting as the harmonic foundation so important. And many other parts, but it's the rhythms, no percussion, no beatbox. Yet it sounds like there's something going. Structurally, the bass part, one sustained note, and then we have a harmonic change, then another one. That part that I demonstrated, repeating itself exactly, even though the bass and the harmony has changed. So immediately we know this is not just going to be traditional. Rhythmic complexities, harmonic richness, and then the upper parts come in, really strengthening this harmonic richness, this non-traditionalness, this non-standardness. Coming through at the top, that roll sounds very similar to the bass roll, this kind of drone underneath, just one sustained note changing irregularly. Everything else is sandwiched in between these two static parts. To me, that exaggerates them. It exaggerates all this movement that's happening in the middle. But this new part at the top is even more so than the bass because it repeats the same note. We still hear, even though the bass has moved, and then that motif, whilst it is a moving part and not a static part, it repeats. So that's how I think of it. You have all these ideas that are different but the same. Staticness in the top part, repetition in the top part and the moving part, movement in the moving part and the bass part, and the bass part is also static but moves.
O come Emmanuel, and ransom captive Israel.
We get a lot of variation in this arrangement. Here, it doesn't sound like there's too much going on, but I think there is. I do wonder how many parts there are or how many layers we're hearing at this moment.
No, usually this had like 10 different layers coming and going at a time. Some of these splits happening here and there, adding in seconds and ninths. I think one of the most interesting things that was able to happen in this, even though you could say overall that the syllable choices are a little bit like bland, I think it really created this beautiful tapestry in the texture. Bars that come out of nowhere with 7/8 and just provide like kind of like a magical time. Like I really do feel like there's magic in this.
When Peter says that bars come out of nowhere with 7/8, this means that there are kind of 7 beats in the bar as opposed to the usual 8.
Our spirits by thine advent here disperse the gloomy clouds of night.
The art of arranging is being able to produce these sounds when you don't necessarily have many parts, but sounds like there are due to how the parts work with each other. And we get this build-up of chords that's kind of consequentially happening.
And ransom captive Israel.
A sort of dumbed down version would be do 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 ba bum bum. Yet all of the other parts, the rhythmically important parts that are almost acting as a whole percussive element through their cross rhythms, syncopations, they're still there and they really are making up the backbone of this sound. So harmony. With a carol as old as this, there will be so many different versions. We have the traditional version, which we most know, which follows a harmonic progression, which basically means the order of the chords as they come. Peter is roughly following that, but here we get a real significant change.
That mourns in lonely exile here.
And it's that motif from the start that now comes in, but it causes this harmonic change. Same melodic idea, implemented differently to change the harmony now. When we heard that earlier, I would say that it was a bit more important from a rhythmic point of view. But here, it is just modernized things, you know, really, really cool. And a really, really solid bass part. Peter is perhaps more well known for his upper range. I mean, he has a huge range, we can all see that. But that lovely tone as he goes from the chest to the upper chest to the blended voice into the head voice. But really solid bass sounds here. I wonder if he filmed the bass parts early in the morning. Sometimes if I film a video in the morning, my voice is noticeably lower. I like to sing the bass parts more often then because it's much more natural. So I wonder if he did that here.
I love that you're asking about the way I do the bass. So yeah, I am a tenor 1. The only way to achieve legitimate bass, as you can tell now with my voice, is just in the morning. You have about 20 to 35 minutes where you have sometimes like a major 6 in like legitimate range and tone and resonance just above and beyond what you really have when your voice warms up, absolutely do that. And actually, if you listen to some of my other stuff like Misty Mountains, I purposely drank hard alcohol to dry out my voice to even get sometimes an octave lower than my normal range. Briefly though, like 5-10 minutes. Total cheat, just in case anybody wants to know.
Yeah.
until the Son of God appears.
More harmonic changes, quite subtle overall in the grand scheme of things, but whenever it happens, there's usually one or two parts, and usually their relation with the bass part as well, because the bass, like I say, often is the harmonic foundation. Here, it's the falsetto part.
Till the Son of God appears.
I am a bit wary that I'm just using the word harmonic changes quite a lot, so without worrying about the actual notes themselves, all chords are just a combination of notes. I know that if we have a C and an E and a G, that's a C major chord. Whereas if I have a C, an E and an A, that's an A minor chord. And if I have a C and an F and an A, it's an F chord. So thinking about that, you can have the melody that will always be the same, but you just need to change one or two of the notes underneath and it will completely change the harmony. From Peter's arrangements that I have seen so far, and you can check them all out, by the way, in the playlist link below or card up here for my Peter Hollens playlist. He loves to do it, and rightly so, because I think he just does it in such clever ways, really, really clever ways that do transform the feeling of the song that we're so familiar with, whilst not straying too far from many of its traditional values. So on that note, if you'll pardon the pun, of the harmonic changes, this is quite obvious now what we're about to listen to, but also structurally, texturally, things change. Rhythmically as well.
Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel.
All of the da 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 from earlier removed for those two chords. Dum, dum. It's quite a drastic change. It makes us go, ooh, keeps us engaged, gets our focus, and then slowly builds back to where we were before.
Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel. Shall
Into a bit more smooth ooh, and then the parts start to move, albeit not as frequently as before, such as with that motif that we've pointed out a couple of times. And then straight into a new high part.
come to thee, O Israel.
Really showing off his range. The verse ends and we get many of these ideas that we've spoken about before. The strong bass part, static and then moving, that inner motif. And all the while there's this in the background, keeping things moving. For the next verse, I feel this rhythmic vitality kind of takes a step back. Now the smoothness of the accompanying parts really come and shine.
Day spring come and chill our spirits by.
We can hear the ooh and the part above, you know, head voice versus chest voice verses working together in harmony, in homophony with each other. With an arrangement like this where we have different sections clearly, I'd like to know if he thinks of it in terms of this section will be all about the rhythms. Is it this section more about the harmony? This section more about the accompaniment or the smoothness or something like that? I think getting an insight from a creator's mind of anything could possibly change your outlook or help you to hear different things or see what you're already seeing a bit differently.
As far as like planning sections, I see this as like baking different layers of the cake. I always start from the ground up. And even like for myself, working with someone like Tom as my main arranger, I can ask him and give him recommendations and inspire him to look at certain ways. But he's the one that provides the tremendous value to me when I get to unlock these arrangements and go. It inspires me. Honestly, recording has probably been some of my favorite aspects of my entire journey due to the ability of me working with arrangers who are just so brilliant. Yes, I can come up with ideas and things that I know will move and emotionally grab people. And sometimes Tom and I hit or miss. My genius does not lie in arranging. I would say any like legitimate value add that I have is in creating and bringing together an ensemble, a Marvel team, if you will, of I can't even come up with the actual powerful thing. Da da da. Power Rangers. God, I'm a dad. To be able to make it so that the end result is like really amazing. I think early on in my career, I learned that being a tiny baby dictator over my own musical journey would just not be worth it. Not to me, not to anyone else. And I think in general, as musicians and humans, we need to figure out and look within ourselves as to what moves us, what inspires us, what gives us light and love, and what are we best at? And then replace and put in amazing humans everywhere else. We are not the best at everything. There are people that succeed at very specific things. And I think as musicians, it behooves us to find the things that we're really good at and identify, most importantly, the things that we're not good at, and then bring in team members to make the end result the best, whether that's building a company, whether that's building a song. All the kudos, all the props to the team members that I've been able to bring on over the years, because they have made me look so much better. So much better. There's a lot of like nuances in which I could be like, well, I'm really good at this one tiny little thing and really good at that. And like, you know, my genetics gave me a voice that it has a long range, and I can adjust it and play with it and manufacture different type of sounds and genres. If you give me any respect for my arrangements, most of that kudos goes to my lifelong arranger, Tom, whom I almost believe. Yeah, I think every single thing that you've done thus far, it has been Tom's work. He is the genius behind it and deserves all the credit. I think I said that in a couple of comments, but I think it's important to say out loud.
Moving on, and now the dissonances start to become a bit stronger. We get suspension, so where a note is held on after a chord changes, causing dissonances.
Shadow put to fly.
Where the sound just becomes a little bit more filthy, but good filthy. But it's all planned, I'm sure of it. The moment we get this, what happens next?
Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel.
A softer area voice coming through. Then this interverse transitionary period, I think, is amazing. Also, this building has really piqued my interest. I wonder what that is. Is it a sort of church or something? Quite modern in style. Here, the tempo is starting to increase. Even if you can't hear it and explain it, that now we have more beats per minute than previously, things are quicker, I'm sure you can feel it. There's just this kind of urgency to the sound. Things seem like they're propelling forward. And the lack of lyrics here as well, I think kind of enhances that. With lyrics, you know the verse, you know when it ends, when it starts, how far through you are. Without lyrics, it could go on for eternity. It keeps us guessing. I was considering speaking over the music, but I won't do that. Again, harmonic changes becoming more apparent. And just shout out to Peter's voice here. I mean, incredible. Quite mystical in a way, isn't it? Quite fairy-like almost, or something that maybe belongs in The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. That was the first mythical land that came to mind. What happens now? Key change. So we started off here, and now we've moved up a semitone. Moving up, there's more room for growth, naturally, as things are all a bit higher.
Come, O come, thou Lord of light, who to thy tribes unsigned.
Oh, so much energy in the arrangement. I'll be here all day if I try and just talk about every part that we're hearing. In my head, the parts, their position in terms of pitch and their roles do change here. Now the higher part, the head voice part, really has a prominent role right at the forefront.
O come, thou Lord of light.
Open sound though, almost like a bit of a belted sound, no vibrato, straight tone. When I demonstrate, this microphone doesn't pick up my head voice, so I have to sing really quietly, close to the mic. But as a countertenor, a male alto, I would absolutely love to sing that part, just belting it out, going through. The bass part is still static and then changing at the significant chord changes.
O come, thou Lord of light.
Dum, 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 dum.
Who to thy tribes unsigned nice high, in cloud and majesty and awe.
Oh, huge sound, huge sound. So many nice parts in there. When I listen another 100, 200 times, I will hopefully be able to hear them all a bit easier. It would be interesting to know which parts Peter preferred singing here. Maybe he didn't always prefer singing the melody. Maybe in one section he preferred singing the bass part, in another section the baritone, in another section the tenor or the alto.
As far as like what I enjoyed singing the most on this song, I mean, I feel like that middle section is so incredible. And I don't know if it was the producer of the piano guys or how they came up with it. Da, 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 da. I need to listen to it, but I'm like in the middle of an airport. But I absolutely enjoyed mimicking that instrumental section. It was hard and difficult to manipulate and imitate in that capacity, but I just loved it. I think it's just something like, there's something magical about this piece and this arrangement, and it's one of my favorites, and I'm just so thrilled that you got to listen to it and you're sharing it.
And this bit did stand out to me on this rejoice, rejoice.
Rejoice, rejoice.
Huge dissonance there, especially between the bass part and some of the upper parts. We have the bass on this A, and then the upper part on a B, if we bring them close together. But then with all the other notes in there, you'd think on this rejoice, rejoice, that could be a good moment to have homophony where all the parts are singing the words rejoice. Peter doesn't do that. I wonder if he considered doing this here, and if so, why he chose not to. With these arrangements, at any point, you can do a million different things, but you always choose to do one thing, so there's always going to be a reason.
Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel.
So things here are obviously now slowing down. Cool, I'm wondering what's going to go on.
Rejoice, rejoice.
I think this bit is genius. In a way, it moves to traditional choral, unaccompanied singing.
Rejoice, rejoice.
But then these unexpected chords, really driven by the chromatic inflection there in the bass part. Rejoice, rejoice.
Rejoice, rejoice.
On this major resolution. Oh, it's almost quite eerie, isn't it? And it sounds like there's maybe some vocal effects applied to make it sound a bit reverby, a bit like it's coming from a cave or an echo or something.
Shall come to thee, O Israel.
We don't know if it's going to phase out in terms of volume or in terms of complexity. Volume, it is fading out, but the complexity is still there. Lovely counterpoint going on. The rhythmic da-da-da-da-da's still there, just as we heard at the beginning. Kind of like we've now come full circle.
Shall come to thee, O
Then this arpeggiated dominant seventh chord. With Peter's melody. That falling chromatic inflection at the end and the change really exaggerating the break between the chest and the head voice. Wow, that's all I have to say to that, really. I feel like I've spoken quite a lot on that one. So many cool things on there. And that's one of those arrangements where you can just listen to it over and over and over, always hear new things. Anyway, let's leave that one there. Really enjoyed that. And I can't wait to listen to it many more times. If you enjoyed the video, please give the video a thumbs up. It really does help. And if you found it helpful or useful in any way, please consider donating me a hot chocolate to keep me going through these winter times. Or if you'd like to join the community, get access to exclusive content, you can do so by joining the Patreon linked on the screen now, and I will see you next time.